Good morning to everyone. I'm Maria Giulia De Donno, responsible for international relations of the SPE Italian section and regional liaison for Europe of SPE Gaia, a global sustainability program. And I'm here today for the third episode of the SPE Green Lounge, an initiative of the SPE Italian section, which aims to provide our audience, professionals in the oil and gas and the wider energy sector, online contents related to energy transition and sustainability. Today, we have the pleasure of hosting Fabrizio Tortora, Head of New Asset Development and Execution Growth at Renantis. We'll explore together the challenges and opportunity within Italy's renewable energy development. Welcome, Fabrizio. We are thrilled to have you here. And could you please tell us more about yourself and your professional journey so far? We love to hear your background and your involvement in the world of renewables.
Thank you very much, Julia, for this opportunity. I'm very happy to be hosting this or participating at this interview. Regarding myself, I joined the renewable sector in 2000, exactly, around 2000. When I entered in Gamesa. Previously, I was working for ABB, so a well-established player in the energy sector, supplying goods and not being an IPP. Then I make the great jump of going on the other side of the table. At the time, renewables were a very niche market. And every year that I talk about my choice to change my business from ABB to a small company called Gamesa, never heard in Italy, everybody was saying, you're crazy, completely stupid. There's something that will last for a few period, is a fashion of the moment, do not trust this. After 24 years, I would say I made a great choice. I enjoyed a lot this sector with a lot of challenges, we have to say this, but also with a lot of achievement and with the small hope that doing my job, I'm also doing something good for our planet. That is always useful to go to sleep with our minds free of any thoughts. In any case, also when I joined Gamesa, there were colleagues of mine that were saying, okay, we will play this role for a few years, 2, 3, 4 years, but this will be something that we will not be doing for a long time. It is not the case. We are still debating about that with ups and downs in terms of business, but still fighting to install thousands of gigawatts in the coming years.
You truly win this bet. And
yes,
your
I would say
expertise
yes.
Your expertise and experience are truly extensive and impressive in this field. And after all this year, how do you envision the role of renewables in the future energy mix?
The correct word is mix. I'm very, let's say, convinced that is not one choice, one energy, or one betting on one of these. The right word is mix. So with one real rule is avoiding greenhouse gas emission, because this is as the only choice that we have to make now, very clear, without having these, let's say, with this common point. The rest can be a mix and shall be a mix of several resources for several reasons, because there is a matter of supply chain, there's a matter of supply of the fuels that are needed, for example, for nuclear, but also for biomass, for hydro power. There is a matter of fuel. It's water, but it's still fuel. So we need to diversify the mix and the generation mix. The real only point that shall be considered as one and common to everybody in the decision is to avoid any greenhouse gas emissions. And on these, I would say that the innovation will play a role. So I would say that the mix nowadays will be, let's say, something that we already see. But we have to be able to foresee a new mix that will happen in 10 years or in 15 years once we have deployed full innovation in this sector. Because despite wind and PV, for example, the technologies I know better are quite evolved. I would say that there is a lot of to be done in the innovation, in the efficiency that might be either being a game changer in the technology, so a step or a cliff in the technology evolution, or it will be something that will be slowly evolving the technology to a more mature situation. This is needing a lot of innovation, a lot of investment from private sector, universities, government, first of all, and these can be boosted and can be fed by, let's say, a great boost in the installation of renewables. The only difference, I would say, among all the technologies that, again, has no greenhouse emissions that can be deployed quicker are PV and wind. Biomass can be, hydro consenting is complex, and the resource is not very useful, is not so easy to be found or be founded. And also nuclear is something that will require some time. I wouldn't say that is not to be deployed, but is that it takes time. While wind PV, they can contribute immediately with the technology that we have now, and even more with the evolution that we will see more, let's say, seriously in the, let's say, freedom from greenhouse emissions. The other 2 points that I would like to mention is that renewables, and specifically wind and PV, that has no fuel, because the fuel is coming from the nature, is that they have, let's say, a low dependency on the fuel prices, and therefore they can provide more stable energy prices in the future. So in an energy mix, a correct energy mix, having a sort of bulk and base load that can provide a stable pricing is something that is very important, because otherwise we will face issues like we got during the Ukraine war or even before, with pressure on gas and prices that go rocketing on the sky.
Very, very interesting. And how do you view the ongoing advancements in renewable energy in Italy? If you want to share your perspective on the current stage of development within the industry.
Yeah, 24 years have been, let's say, telling me that there are waves, like in the nuclear, we made 2 referendums for that and always come back and up and down and up and down. The renewables is the same. For any industry is always the same. There is not, this bit of concern is that there is not a clear path to, but it's always depending on what is happening. I can understand that there are interactions and with the external world, meaning in a global world, and renewables are part of this global world, and even more considering that most of the technology in some sectors like PV are coming not from, for example, from the EU, or mainly from EU players, but it's coming from abroad, and mainly from China, Asia, China. But since 2000, I saw up and down of the renewables with decrees that were aiming to boost the renewables. I remember the night that when it has been approved in 2003, the 387 decree that was introducing a new single process for consenting the renewables projects. And we were celebrating this as a great achievement. Then there has been several evolutions, several changes, and in any case, up and down. The latest one has been the one that came from the cut of the incentives that happened around 2010. And since then, up to 2017, 16, 17, there was a very slowdown in the industry. This was happening, of course, in conjunction with the crisis, the world crisis, coming from 2008. So the restarting of the real investment, because renewables are very capital intensive, has been a bit slowed down by this crisis. But I would say that the fundamentals are there because the technology is ready, is now more mature. I wouldn't say that it's completely mature, as for what I was saying before, but it is something that is evolving in the right direction, and we can deliver significant amount of energy from the current technology. We are seeing several changes also in relation to the national governments. In Italy, we saw two new acts that are not, let's say, I would say they are not against renewables, but they are a bit not consistent with other signals that we got. For example, we have clear targets that are very challenging on us for Italy, and we need to speed up the process of consenting and installing the projects. But on the other side, we see that there are other actions from the government, and so the government is boosting this, putting also incentives in place for achieving these targets. On the other side, we see that the permitting is becoming even more complicated, and there has been two acts that are very concerning to me, that are the DL Agricoltura and the DL Aree Idonee, that are going to be enacted soon. They are law, but they have to be transformed in law soon. That are, let's say, on the others, let's say, direction of boosting the renewables. I don't know. We have to check the final test of the decrees and see what is the final result. But in any case, let's say, is putting additional constraints to the development of the renewables. And I would say that only one topic is that we have a lot of resources of wind, we have a lot of resources of PV, we have some possibilities in the tidal, in the waves, on the Mediterranean. We have some hydro plant that can be still developed. We have been one of the first, given the Alps, developing or being forefront in the hydropower. We have the chance to do it again and to replicate. These kind of slowdown are not supporting these innovation, technology, and let's say innovation and establishment of a solid industry in the Italian market.
Yeah, so we see that the development of an Italian supply chain is easier said than done, and you already have highlighted many challenges that the industry is facing. I just have a question, because sometimes maybe very simple, but why is so important to have a local supply chain?
The local supply chain is crucial for several reasons. I would say that probably the main two are the following. One is to have the community involved in the development of the project. So meaning that they see more, let's say, they are more onboarded on these projects if they can participate in this development and construction, of course. The other way is that we create value locally by using a local supply chain, and this is, let's say, enriching the country itself. So there will be an increased support, not only from, let's say, consenting side, but also on the economical side. And this is creating new place of work, new jobs. It will create new expertise. It will enhance the innovation locally, because we have the renewables are not concentrated in a specific area. So they are spread across the country. Solar, wind is more in the center south, but I would say that, for example, solar is spread in all the country. When we have the opportunity to create people, jobs, and form people to look after these plants that are very, let's say, demanding in terms of maintenance, and they need expert on this field. For example, in the EPC, so the construction of the projects, we are seeing that there is a lack of industry in the Italian sector. So the reason is that we are obliged as investors to look outside Italy to find very basic jobs, like people that is doing the ramming for the PV, installation of turbines, transportation of wind turbines, electrical installation, civil installation. And this is a bit loss for the country, because it's we have this expertise. It's a matter to reconvert them to renewables, making some adjustment in the skills and the training, but then we have it. And we have the opportunity to have rural areas developing these kind of skills, even supported by, again, the secondary schools, universities, the local chamber of commerce, because they can also support this kind of training. And I would say that the wind and PV specifically, again, given the fact that they have this natural fuel, their main cost is linked to the operation and maintenance. And so having a local supply chain may benefit to have a reduced cost of operation and maintenance. That is translated, I wouldn't say not euros by euros, but more or less in the cost of production of the renewables. So it will be beneficial also for the country itself, because the cost of production, so the cost of the energy produced by renewables, might be reducing. There is one concern, and this is already to some extent gone, but not completely, is that the fact that the main supply of components is coming from outside Europe. There is still an industry that are, let's say, fighting to remain European. That is the wind industry that born in EU and is struggling to remain in the EU, because it's we have several companies that already have some financial, they are under financial pressure, and they are under the pressure also of the new entrants from the Asian market. So on this regard, there is a lot of pressure coming from outside, and there is a risk that if we do not invest in innovation, and this is mainly for the governments, we might have a new dependency that is not anymore an OPEX dependency, but is a CAPEX dependency. So we need from outside of Europe to have these components. In a global world, it shouldn't be an issue. But I would say that as European citizen and more Italian one, as an Italian citizen, I'm a bit concerned that we are not able to win these because we started these and we shall be able to deploy even more. So the innovation battle and the innovation is the key element for the future. On these, there are still two areas where we can say something that are the storage and the electrochemical, or let's say in general, energy storage. That I wouldn't deploy these in a specific way, electrochemical or potential or whatever it is, but is more the storage itself as a concept and the hydrogen. Because on these two sectors, there is still a lot of innovation to be done. And we can have a future because we have a lot of interest from the European community. And as Italians, we have also small areas where these is going to be deployed and developed. And I would say that these are the two main streamline that we can do in parallel with PV, wind, inverters, and an evolution of an innovation on that.
Thank you. That's very, very insightful. I wanted to ask you, since at the moment the Italian supply chain or the European supply chain, as you highlighted, still need to be built. Does this situation make the final price of energy remaining competitive in the market?
This is a good question. I would say that to some extent the answer is yes, because there is in this moment there is for the components at least that are playing they are playing in a market in a global market. There is a pressure to put down prices, and so this is helping us to have these energy prices being, let's say, calmed and low. There is the other component that, again, as I was mentioning before, is the installation of the components. That is one component of the capex, because again, wind and PV that are fuel, let's say, neutral. The real cost of energy is coming from the initial investment, so from the capex. I wouldn't say even that the OPEX are playing a role, but not as a crucial one. The real point is that the real cost of the energy is done by the capex, so the cost of the iron, I would say, the components and the installation, and of course the cost of capital to invest on this. If the capex, meaning the iron, is from one side competing in a global market, and this is putting pressure on prices, so we see a lot of reductions. I remember that more or less 12 to 18 months ago, PV modules were in the range of 20 cents per watt. Now we are nearly 10 cents per watt or something more, but more or less in this order of magnitude for utility scales. Of course, this is something that one part of the component. The other part is the installation, and on these in some countries there is a more evolved market, like Spain, Germany, I would say, for different reasons. Germany, because they kept the volume of installation inside very high, so they were keen to install and continue to install PV modules, for example. And Spain, because they went abroad. They went in Mexico, they went in Chile, they went in Colombia, where when in Spain the market was slowing down, there it was ramping up. So they have been able to move that. And so there are these kind of industry that is still alive. In Italy, when we stopped our incentives, most of the industry tried to go outside. It has been helped also by Italian investors going abroad, but it is not as developed as the others, and is not sized to face the number of installations that are nowadays going to be built, and even worse in the future, where we will have even more higher volumes of installations. This is a good news, but it's a bad news. Good news because we have concepts that are coming up, so there will be market over there. So there is an opportunity also for somebody who wants to enter in this business to join the business in the EPC sector. It's a bad news because from the investor point of view, there is a lack of supply. That is something that is we would like always to avoid. First of all, because it will reduce the competition in the tenders, and the negotiation is a bit tough. On the other side is if somebody is a bit more relaxed, there is not a great pressure on make efficiency on that, and capex will be translated euros by euros in euros in prices of energy. So I would say part of the cost is going to be very competitive in the future and is still under pressure. Other part shall be developed on these. I would say that the governments and the ability to create this kind of industry again, or build up this kind of industry, is key and important because it's beneficial for everybody.
Very, very interesting. And on another point of view, as we can see, there is a risk of dependency on non-European supply chain. So what strategies could be implemented to enhance the European or the Italian supply chain within the renewable energy sector?
The capex dependency, I would say, in some sectors is already there. There is a gap in the with the current technologies that cannot be filled with our targets. Why? Because the volume of installation in Asia are so bigger, and the quickness of the installation, the speed of installation in Asia are quicker than in Europe, for different reasons, for different approaches to the business. So to some extent, they have their own internal market that is feeding the industry, but it's feeding the industry with the current installation. I think that we have, as Europe, the innovation tool that shall be deployed at full ranges. So shall be looking at 360 degrees around the industry and trying to find out even if there are new technologies that are not still developed enough that can be mature to compete and against the PV, against biomass, against wind, and even against the nuclear. Because these are the real tool is the innovation. Competing price per price is not a great battle. Even duties that has been imposed some time ago for Chinese manufacturer is an artificial way, because in any case the duties will be transferred to the cost of energy, because this will be an additional cost for producing, and this will be transferred in the prices. And even because nowadays there is no way that we can find a European PV module, for example, manufacturer. There are some inverters, there are some trackers coming from Europe, and we shall, rather than trying to kill or stop the others, try to boost this European industry. So we need to give them money, give them grants, support, because this is the way that we can do. And in parallel, look at the innovation, because again, the innovation is the real way that we can avoid to be completely dependent, capex dependent from other markets. So this is the real words that to be done, to be used. I heard about the European Commission trying to set up some protections for the current industry. I would say that is fine, but it shall not be the only tool that we have to put in place. We have the possibility that the industry, in some cases, for example, in the wind industry, we have that the Chinese manufacturers are investing in bigger and more efficient turbines. The European, given the financial pressure they have, they are not stopping. I would say they are slowing down a bit the investment in this kind of innovation. We heard some statement from Vestas, we heard some statement from Nordex, we heard about some issues from Siemens Gamesa, and this is something that is a bad signal, because if we stop investing, if the big players are stopped, or let's say slowing down the investment of innovation, is the path for everybody to come in Europe and take over their role. So this is something that we need to avoid for sure. And again, there is hydrogen, there is storage, where the play is still open, and we can play a role, either boosting the industry, but either boosting the demand. So, for example, in the hydrogen, the key element here is to create a real demand around hydrogen, because nowadays there is not a real demand. There is an artificial demand, and there is a sort of not clear indication how we want to use this green hydrogen that we want to produce. Even because in some cases the production chains have to be changed to accommodate the hydrogen usage. And this is not easy to be done, and is on the demand side, not on the offer side. So this is a very key element for example, for the hydrogen. So there is a technological challenge, but there is let's say a market challenge around that.
Definitely. So we see that we will need a lot of collaborations, as you said, from the private sector, the industry, the policymakers, association, and we hope that all these institutions, I would say, all these stakeholders, will work together towards this direction. As we approach the end of our interview, I like to shift the focus from the supply chain to a new business model. So what are your thoughts on the concept of agrivoltaics, where agriculture land is used both for farming and solar energy production simultaneously? And what challenges do you see in this approach?
I would say that this is the kind of evolution and innovation that is need to happen, because when you start doing something, for example, PV or agriculture, you always think that they are two different things, but they have a common point, that is the ground where they have to be fixed. And previously, the idea is that the two cannot work together. While now, there is a way that we can see that the two of them can be combined to boost each other, meaning that agricultural activities can boost PV and PV can boost agricultural activities. And this can be done in conjunction. And in some cases, we can reactivate some agricultural activities in some areas where this has not been, this has been stopped for years. We have a case as Renantis in Sicily. We have the opportunity with the climate change to boost the agricultural activity in some cases, because the shadow of the panels, for example, is reducing the evaporation of the soil, and this will allow the agricultural activity to go forward and with less needs of water. On the other side, we can use, for example, ships to cut the grass around the panels rather than using tools, electrical, or let's say in some cases, four-stroke tools to cut the grass. We can also have a more, say, surveillance in a way of the sites, having somebody doing some activities over there. There are challenges, of course, because you have to combine either the two activities in terms of what I can do as agricultural activity in parallel with the PV production. So I cannot put trees of 6 meters high because they will shadow completely the panels. And also there are other challenges like HSE challenges, because there is one man that or woman that knows how to feed a plant or how to manage an agricultural activities, but that they are completely blind and not knowledgeable about any shocking electrical risk. On the other side, we have a guy that is able to do the activity on electrical plants, but is knowing nothing about agricultural activity. So we need to create, again, his innovation, expertise that are able to work together on this and combining these two things together, because this is the real challenge in this coming months. So I would say there is still a lot of debate. There are still definitions lacking, but I think that is a quite obvious evolution of the market on this regard that shall be going forward.
Thank you very much. And concerning the other technologies you're involved, you already gave us some insight on the hydrogen and the idea that the area demand should be created. But you deal also with batteries, and so I would like to ask you if you have any insight or perspective on this technology.
The battery storage, in general terms, is let's say, of course, is now focused on the lithium technology. I'm very sure that this will be not the only one that will last in the future. I would say that there is a huge blue ocean, as people say it, to be explored on this regard, because the battery storage has supercapacitors, for example, technologies. There are other technologies like the fluximetry, but even because the current chemicals are, let's say, putting some pressure on the environmental side, because we have lithium, we need mining, we have cobaltium, and also in this regard that there are not infinite resources on that, and there is an industry that is already recognizing this by trying to recycle as much as possible used batteries. So on this, there is a need of innovation and new technology that shall be coming in the future. Again, by creating the demand, it will push on the investment on the innovation and research. For example, in Italy, we have some auctions that are going to be run by Terna for the max, even because with the renewables, there is a need of storage, because it will avoid to have any further investment in infrastructure or unneeded investment on the infrastructure, but more managing better the fluxes of the energy in the grid.
Thank you. Fabrizio, this is my last question. So thinking to the audience, especially our youngest audience, what advice would you give regarding, for example, the most interesting and innovative verticals for a young person who wants to start his career in the renewables?
I would say there is a lot of space over there, from let's say not only at university level or the research level. There is a lot of space at all levels, meaning from the, let's say, the blue collars up to the white collars to the to any other kind of job profiles that we want to look at. So on these, the targets are very ambitious, and is putting pressure on the industry to create new jobs. And I would say that these are, I would say, if you approach this with the humility of looking at something new, and with the curiosity of a young person, I would say that the ingredients are pretty there. Then, of course, there is training, there is innovation that shall be done either at industry level, but also mainly at university level, university or school level, I will say. We work also as Renate said, with some schools, and it was fantastic. We gathered some ideas because people were looking at 360 degrees. So out of hundreds of ideas that might be, in some cases, more challenging, some cases very idealistic, there has been very good ideas that we are aiming to work on. So I would say that there is a, let's say, and this is the only sector, no, not the only, it's one of the sectors where you can make together a good development in the skills and trainings and the job with the good for the planet together, because this is for sure something that will improve our pollution, our, let's say, quality in the planet.
Very inspiring. Thank you, Fabrizio, for your time and insightful contribution. We look forward to collaborating with you again in the future. And in the meantime, we say goodbye to our audience and see you at the next episode of the SPE Green Lounge.
Thank you very much, and thank you for everybody for listening to that.
Very interesting. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.